Well, my goodness. Here I am again, and I hope that you've been enjoying our shows that we've been doing. Remember, we are dealing with race and cultures, bridging the divides. I'm Reverend Dr. Barry Staples, and I'm so glad that you have joined me again this evening, this morning, whatever it might be. This is how I feel. Let's all give one another a great applause. My goodness. Well, it's another day in July, and it's another day that we should be thankful, feel blessed that we're still here on this side. My goodness. You know, I wasn't going to even come on today, this evening, but I have to do this again. Make some sense. My grandmother used to always say, boy, if you don't act right, I might have to go upside your head. For some of you that don't understand that, that means sometimes we need to have some sense knocked into us. Now, I'm not advocating violence. I'm not advocating doing anything of that sort, but that's to the extreme of your imagination because something in your brain is not working. That's why grandmamas always said that. Something in your brain is needs to be shaken up, shook up, spin around, turn together, press together to make sense about what's going on. There's my phrase again, that back to my Marvin Gaye. What's going on? I have to I'm just making a commentary about what happened the other day with Sandy Brondello and Angel Reese. I want us to look back at what this is a situation where there was a foul. They say it was a foul. I'm not going to run back to videos, anything, but if you ever play ball, something's happened inadvertently or whatever the case might be, but somebody might get hurt, get hit, and get hurt afterwards. Well, Angel Reese was going up for a bloopy again, a layup that she doesn't make typically, and she didn't make this one either. Sambolo from the Toronto Temple was going up. They both were in the air. Angel clumsily, she comes down and she's upset, thinking she got fouled. They both kind of did something simultaneously. And Sandy Brondello said, Angel is a protected species. Let me put some clarity on this. You all familiar with what happened from the person in the White House put out a video depicting President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle as apes. When you hear the term species, not realizing that we all belong to a species, but when you hear the word species, a lot of people, black folks, think that that means you're dehumanizing them, taking them to a primate or ape level, not worthy of being humans. We know that this Constitution was written to make black people, especially, only three-fifths of a person. And all those people that were already here, I alluded last session, episode about my mother, my grandfather and great grandfather were already here. Those people were not even considered to be citizens of representing this country. But black people were considered not human, three-fifths of a person. So when a black person hears that term, bang, automatically bells go off, whistles go off. The term racist and racism you hear echoing through the corridors of every hallway, through every neighborhood, except some don't want to pay it any, never mind. So Angel, to me, has always felt somewhat kind of not important. He made the statement, this is not just about one person, it's about me too. That's another story to talk about. She was making reference to Caitlin Clark, who brought in the wave of many fans, brought WNBA to be noticed. Before Caitlin arrived on the scene, no one really knew who a lot of these people were, let alone knowing what WNBA stood for. But I digress. Back to Sandy Brondello. I'll have another episode about Caitlin as many. And I made reference to laws that are being passed, things that are happening right now to dehumanize people still in the year 2026, taking away voting rights, trying to get rid of civil rights legislation. Some people say, well, those go hand in hand. Well, of course they do. Civil rights and human rights, which brings me to Sandy Brondello. But first, I want you to listen to what Angel Reese had to say about this. Okay, just kind of bear with me as we enter this situation. Angel Reese is now talking about what happened after the situation took place. So just kind of pay attention to this. Remember, we're talking about culture and race. In this session, this episode, I keep saying session, is about divisiveness. Divisiveness. And no matter what Angel said, anyone else saying, people, we must do better because we can do better in this great country. Angel is, as you look at her face, she's wanting to feel like she's a victim. But it cuts deeper than this. It deals with culture. So there you heard it. She wants to move forward. We can move forward, and we must move forward, Miss Angel. We must do better. We must do better because we can do better. I'm trying to get some things squared away here. Give me a second. Um, so we have Angel. It's almost like she's crying. Poor Angel. But there's grown folks in the house. One of the grown folks in the house was Sandy Brondello, the coach of the Toronto Temple. And I want you to pay close attention to this screen because there's something I looked at this the other day and it came to light about what this is really all about. Culture. Okay, remember, this is about race and cultures. Let's bridge these divisions that are going on. Let's bring it together. Cultural divisions, we must do better, folks. We must do better. So please like and subscribe to this channel also, and just listen a little bit to what I have to say. But I want you to hear Sandra Brondello. She's the grown folk in the house. She has something to say about what transpired. Listen to what she has to say, and it's gonna hopefully shed some light on the situation. Miss Sandy Brundello, the coach, the coach. You don't know me. What did she just say? It's an emotional statement. It is very common in Australia. Her culture. Oh my goodness. You know, I just want to share this with you. We often talk about the United States as the melting pot. But let me say something to you. Why don't we think of it in terms of this is a tossed salad country? You know, in a melting pot, think about a stew. You melt everything in. Are you going to stick your hand in there and pull out the carrots, the beef, the chicken, whatever's in there, celery? But and can you identify the vegetables in there? But just think, if we think of this country as a tossed salad, oh boy, we can see the lettuce. It could be romaine lettuce, some other kind of lettuce. It could be big tomatoes from the garden, cherry tomatoes, little bitty, itty bitty tomatoes, cucumbers. You can identify each one, and you can, pardon the expression, you can relish. You know, we're thinking about pickles and cucumbers. You can relish the idea that you can pick that tomato up and see the difference. You can pick up the tomato, you can pick up everything in there and look at them, but you can also put them back together into a salad. That's kind of was my idealistic way of looking at it. Maybe Sandra Bondello was looking at we should all understand one another's culture. You should know that in Australia, protected species is something that we say is a comment, but we're going to get into that. The term that you need to understand, we're talking about everybody has some kind of idiom from their culture. You know, we have things like you hook, line, and sinker, you know, those kind of things. You know, they they bought lock, stock, and barrel, different idioms that people use within their culture. This could have been a tossed salad moment. What exactly does that mean? And I'll get to why I just said that. But what else does Sandy have to say? She has coached for 27 years in the WNBA. She was a player for many years more. I think she played, 6, 7 years. She has played around and with black players, coached black players. She's aware of the racism in this country. Angel Reese, as she said, you know, I don't know Angel, but Angel, do you know her? Get to know each other. I have something to throw in there. What if she, a word that I hear people say all the time, the N word? Oh, then you hear it say with an A or an R. It's the same derivative. It is the same word. It's a derogatory word that came from slavery times in this country, and people use them today. But then you hear some people, black folks. Yeah. I told you in the last episode, I grew up in a black community. Gentrification hit me before 2024, 25, 26. There were white kids I remember in elementary school. And as I slowly got into the fifth and sixth grade, they disappeared. I had white teachers. They didn't live in the neighborhood. They got in their car and they drove out south or wherever, or west or whatever, north. And we were left there. And then I can remember the word, the N word, everybody being calling each other N word. You heard Ice Cube say, we took that word back. But you would have someone else say that N word, and you're supposed to like it. You let a white person call a black person the N word, unless they think they cool. But there'd be a fight, Kirk, breaking out. Think about it. What if Sandra Brondello has used that? Oh, come on, Angel, get up. Use the N word toward her. Get up, you guys. Angel would have jumped up, tried to slap Sandra Brondello. But in the locker rooms, you hear them, they be talking, yeah, you my this. I can't even say the word. I can't say it. Because I be wanting to fight. Help me, Jesus. So let's hear more about Sandy. Oh, the salad. They're all my teammates. All my teammates. She tried to call Angel. Angel didn't answer the phone. We can do better. She's truly sorry. But I want you to pay close attention to something that is totally misleading. On the right side of Sandy, if you look at the screen, it says she is being racist, period. The term protected species is a phrase that has long been used in Australia as a derogatory slur toward Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Think about this. If you're familiar with Australia, you have a group of people that are Aborigines, the original people of Australia, so on and so forth. They're tall, some of them are light skinned, and they kind of have curly hair and that kind of stuff. Then this person is saying, but look at how they identify themselves. F word something. So, but look, they go on to say it comes from the stereotype that indigenous Australia supposedly get away with everything or receive special treatment, which is exactly the implication behind the comment. She is definitely being racist and now trying to cover it up, not realizing she can't get away with it like she does here. Ha ha. Well, let's explore this. Let's explore this some more because she is totally not accurate here. Whoever this person with the F bomb name. I want to show you or share with you something. Now, what happened to Sandy Brondello, woman who spent 27 years coaching NBA? She went through this. Toronto Temple head coach Sandy Brondello has been suspended without pay, taking her money for one game for an inappropriate comment she made regarding Angel Reese of the Atlantic Dream during the Temple's 111-92 loss to the Dream yesterday in Toronto. She was served with suspension when the Temple hosted Las Vegas Aces. The WNBA expects all coaches and team personnel to uphold the highest standards of professionalism and respect that are fundamental to our league. I'm gonna tell you about upholding respect. Back to CC. Since Caitlin Clark has been in the league, how much and respect and professionalism has been afforded to number 22, that young player from Iowa. Number 22. In her first year, set 62 records, and playing with minute restrictions is still setting records. WNBA, I don't know, you give mixed messages. But did any due process take place with this? She explained what the word meant from Australia. If we're going to be culture fair, if we're going to be culture fair, we must respect the person's culture. Why didn't someone sit down with Sandy Brondello and Angel Reese? Say, come to the principal's office. Coming to the principal's office, something needs to be talked about here. And Sandy Brondello could have talked to Angel about that. But Angel wants sympathy, as she said, and all the love that was spread. But what about Sandy Brondello? How much love is being spread toward her? There are some people that have made comments, but this lady, look at that suspension of a very fine coach. Oh yeah, I said it. She's been suspended. So let's look and see exactly what this phrase really means. You saw the comments. So, in Australian sports slang, calling an athlete or team a protected species simply means keep it simple and stupid. Means they receive preferential lenient treatment from referees, just like all those players been attacking Caitlin Clark since she's been in the league. They're all protected species. Kennedy Carter, so on and so forth. J.C. Sheldon. I mean, think about all the people. They're protected species. However, the term gained heavy international controversy after a recent incident in the WNBA, sparking deep conversations about cultural translation and racial sensitivity toward Black and Indigenous populations. You see what I said, Black. I didn't say African American. So listen, the sports context versus the cultural impact. Australian vernacular in AFL and NRL and Australian basketball being a protected species is common phrasing meant to complain that a star player get the benefit of the doubt or extra favorite calls from officials. Michael, MJ, you're a protected species. You foul people and everything, but we're not going to call you protected. So this recent incident we just kind of covered with the Australian basketball, coach, and she's American NBA, WNBA, was suspended for using the phrase regarding a Black athlete. But guess what, people? There were two Black athletes. He was, as she said, she's always speaks up for her players, who happened to be in a thing with Angel Samali, who's a Black player, got hurt during that situation. She was concerned about her player. Caitlin, I'm going to get to that. Angel did not say anything about she was sorry or concerned. It's all about her. She was hurt, she says, or whatever, but Sabli's the one who got hurt. How is she going to be protected? So the comment landed very differently in the United States because the traumatic historical context where Black people and Indigenous peoples were historically compared to. non-humans. I said that before. Animals or pests as a tool of dehumanization. That covers the whole thing for athletes. Now think about this. What this lady is trying to say, and her quote next to the video there about Sandra Brondello being racist. So this is it. The phrase forces a necessary broadening reckoning on how minority populations are treated, as it parallels ongoing issues of respect, race, and terminology in Australian sports. So here's the historical paternalism part. Historically, sports in Australia were often used by settler governments, just like Great Britain, and missionaries as paternalistic, civilizing, and assimilation tools. In other words, the Brits might have gone in there and tried to show people it's okay, we can play soccer, we can play lacrosse, we're going to help everybody love each other through sports, occasionally disguising marginalization as protection. So some people got into sports and they were using that to kind of act like they were protecting people. And that gets down to the Aborigines. A lot of good athletes that are Aboriginal came out of Australia. But listen to this. The modern reconciliation is this. So Australian sporting bodies such as the Australian Sporting Commission actively work to undo this legacy by prioritizing First Nations inclusion. That means the Aborigine, as I said before. They were already there and respecting traditional custodians. That's more respect than they're doing for Black folk in this country. They're protecting the people. They're doing things now. A lot of people want to live in Australia. I had my buddy of mine, his son uh, went to Australia to play pro ball. He got over there. He's been there for 35 years. He ain't coming back because he gets treated so well. So the ongoing work is this. While Indigenous athletes in Australia make up a massive percentage of professional players in leagues like the AFL, the fight against overt racism, structural bias, and fair representation in coaching and front office roles remains a sensitive and ongoing challenge. In other words, Australia is trying to meet them at the gate, to meet them at the gate so all people can come in and get treated respectfully. So who say you in the WNBA? In the WNBA, we need to be protective to all people. Yes, I think Sandra Brondello has been scapegoated. I think the WNBA did not use due process. This is the point. The sign behind me says simply, you belong here. That's protective. You matter. That's being protective. You are worth it. That's being protective. You are important. That's being protective. You are loved. That is very protective. You have a voice. Sandra Brondello, you use your voice to explain your culture. You are valued, but most of all, you are respected. And I leave you with this image. Think about, okay? Think about her. Another week, the week of July 13th to the 19th. Caitlin Clark again. How protective is she? Picked by the Associated Press off of little bitty minutes, not even 30 minutes, not a lot of times, not even 23 minutes. He averaged 25 points a game, a 43.5% field goal percentage, 7.7 assists per game, and 2.3 rebounds. But she hasn't been protected in this league. She is and should be a protective species in this league. All people should be respected and protected. So who say you? What are you going to do to make things better? I say it is time that we do things right. We do things to make things comfortable. Otherwise, we be hearing this all the time. We don't want that. What we want is a little bit of love in the air. That's what we want. We need it. We have to have that in the air, loving one another. Loving one another. I thank you for joining me today. Please like and subscribe. You can also donate to this channel. Go to this website, racecultures.com, and hit the donate button. Donate anything you want to help keep us going. Again, just whatever you feel comfortable doing. I'm Reverend Dr. Barry Staples. It's been a delight, a pleasure, and I wish you all love, peace, and happiness. God bless you.